Some people swear it's the only way to travel. Others turn their nose at the thought. Is cruising really so controversial? There's more to cruising than what you've seen in brochures or heard from sitting through your relative's slideshow for their 12th Caribbean adventure. Keep listening to hear our take on both classic and lesser-known ways to set sail and find out why cruising should be on every traveler's bucket list.
Welcome to the Travel More podcast.
Each episode, we share custom itineraries, travel hacks, expert advice, and even stories of our past travel failures to help you level up your travel game.
I'm Shelly, a lover of plans, itineraries, and cheap flights. I'm an expert deal finder with one eye always on the budget.
And I'm Bruce, the improviser, ready to pick up where plans fail to turn letdowns into unexpected trip favorites. We're here to bust through barriers that stop you from making your travel dreams a reality.
So book that flight, buy the tickets, and say hello to your next adventure.
This is the Travel More Podcast. Welcome back to the Travel More Podcast.
Episode 11.
And today we're going to talk everything cruises.
Yeah, it feels really appropriate to talk about cruising right now. Like, it's like finally really kind of like summer vibes.
I know, and I mean, for us at least, we finally turned on the air conditioner last night.
One time, our first time.
I broke down.
Broke the seal.
You might live where you always have AC, but in New England, we try to hold out as long as possible because electricity, it gets up there.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, when I first met Bruce, and I lived in Memphis, which is unheard of not to have the air conditioner on like year round. And then we were talking, we were a long distance relationship, and he was sitting in Vermont, and he was like, "It's so hot." And I was like, "Just turn on your air conditioner." And he's like, "I don't have an air conditioner." And it literally blew my mind. Like, what do you mean you don't have an air conditioner? To be fair,
that was like, we lived some of the hotter summers at that point. I think we broke down and we bought a window unit.
We did, but that was like years later. I mean, Burlington, Vermont, you're only an hour from Canada, so it didn't really get hot enough. But yeah, that was crazy. That was the first time I realized in my whole life that not everyone had an air conditioner.
See, that's why you need to travel. Because you learn things like this.
So, before we get into cruising today, we do want to just plug one more time our summer school series, which will be starting in our next episode in June. So it's a series that's going to go throughout the summer, little bite-sized episodes, just about our favorite travel tools, tips, and itineraries, just really quick little episodes. But we have two things we want to mention before we move on to our cruising about it. One is that we have a giveaway.
This will be our second giveaway to our listeners, and we'll be giving away a digital travel bundle with planning guides, budget templates, and more. We're also giving away a book by Zachary Burt Abel called First Class Travel on a Budget, and it's all about what you need to know about travel hacking and how to get started.
Of course, the way to enter all of our giveaways thus far is to be part of our newsletter, where you can sign up down in the show notes. But there's also a second part that we wanted to talk about. So the second part is that we have a brand new private Facebook community called Travel More Tips and Insiders.
Exclusive club.
Exclusive. Again, the link is in the show notes, but here we are asking people to go on and tell us your craziest travel stories. And we're going to put a few of them in our summer school series episodes.
Yeah, so definitely get on Facebook.
Yeah,
and
if you want to be featured on the podcast.
It has to be a member of this Facebook group, Exclusive Club.
Yes.
And if you want to be on the podcast, give us one of your best stories. And I'm definitely thinking about travel failures for sure.
Oh, yeah. They're the best kind of stories, right? Is like what not to do. But anyways, we can't wait to see everybody's stories. We already have a few coming from our Instagram page. So thank you to everybody that's already submitted, and we can't wait to read everyone else's. So, on to cruising.
All right. Today, cruises. You know, when I think about an episode about cruises, it kind of makes me think about our episode on Disney or theme parks, things like that. Because I think cruising comes with some stereotypes.
Yeah.
And some people have strong opinions one way or another on cruises.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Even when we started, we only went on our first cruise a couple of years ago, and people are like, "Why cruises?" And I mean, that's like kind of what you get. You either get people who love cruising. It's like their one thing they do it often, they're really into it. Or you get people who absolutely hate them. It feels like there's no in between.
I know, and it's like, I feel like you're either someone who maybe grew up cruising because it's definitely popular for family vacations.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're someone who's never really done it and thinks, why would I want to do that? That's not the way to travel. That's not how you see things authentically, right? And I think for myself, I definitely was more in that camp of, I'm not sure about cruises, these big boats. I always see the Carnival commercials, and I'm like, okay, like a party in the Caribbean, cool.
I mean, I was super against cruising, but that's partly because I have such a weak stomach, and I was just
that's a whole
so
nother factor.
nervous about.
Yeah, you were just nervous about the boat itself.
Yeah, and it just feels like you're like stuck on it, and you're like out in the ocean, and you can't go anywhere. I just was like, that sounds like horrendous. Like, why would I purposely do that for myself? But I can say that confidently after a few cruises now that it does not feel like that. We'll get a little bit more into that.
Okay, it's
in a
nothing
minute.
like the sailboat in the Keys, if you remember from a few episodes ago.
Oh yeah, nothing
our
like
Airbnb
that.
Episode.
I actually, what's funny? That experience was actually the experience that we had. And if you didn't listen to the episode, we essentially got tossed and turned all night in a docked sailboat in the Keys. But that experience was literally the one I was like, okay, well, if I could do this and be okay, I'd probably be okay on a sailboat or a cruise
You're
line.
like, I could survive rogue waves in the deep end.
Yeah, like I feel pretty good now. I'm like signing up for my Drake Passage cruise over here.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're going to go into the 3 different kind of categories of cruises, and they are wildly different. So don't listen to the first one and think like, okay, I get it. I get it. It's just different locations. It's not just different locations.
No, definitely not.
They are very different, the 3 of these. So definitely listen towards the end. And then I will also give a little bit of a plug to the travel tool that I absolutely will not leave home without, and is the other reason that I felt confident getting on the boat for seasickness. So stick around for that as well. All right, let's go on to Caribbean cruises, because that's obviously the most kind of famous style cruise, I would say, at least in the United States.
Oh, I definitely think they're the most popular.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what's on commercials all the time.
Yeah.
Party in the Caribbean, Carnival cruises, all that stuff. And I really do think they're great for people who want to relax and see some great beaches in the meantime.
Right. Yeah, they're not going to necessarily drop you off in the most culturally immersive places. But you know what? Sometimes that doesn't matter. Like sometimes you really just want the relaxation. I think cruises are really great for that. They'll be fun. They have this all-inclusive nature, so there's not a lot of planning involved. You kind of just sign up and show up.
Right, and I think for people who really just want to enjoy their vacation time and relax, and a big thing that someone we know likes to do is they don't have cell service a lot. Like you have to, you can get Wi-Fi, you can get other things, but it's in some ways you can just turn off.
Yeah.
And if you have a job where you're always on call, like being on a cruise, going to a beach and all-inclusive where everything's taken care of for you is really, really nice.
Yeah, where you are literally like, I'm sorry, you can't call me. I will not be able to pick up.
It's impossible.
It's a good excuse to kind of unplug for a little bit. They're also really great for like multi-generational trips or big friend groups, because everyone can kind of do what they want. And if you've ever been on a big group tour, like with a lot of family,
oh my gosh, right,
it can be a mess.
Or if you try to plan something without any other guide or something booked, so you just have a big group of friends, even a small group of friends trying to agree on something to do.
Yeah,
it's tough.
It is tough.
I really see a boat could be great for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone could go to their own dinner places and meet back up at the pool. I mean, it's so easy because everything is right there. So, those are some great reasons for the Caribbean cruise. And they're also can be a really affordable way to vacation.
Definitely.
I've seen them as little as like $700 per person for like a week. So
oh yeah, and like you don't even have to go for a full week.
No,
that's the nice thing about especially Caribbean cruises. You've got as small as like 3 days, I want to say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Especially if you live in a coastal city.
You could do like
or
a weekend.
close.
Yeah, if you live down in Miami, you could take like a weekend cruise and come back.
Yeah, easy. So the thing you have to remember though with cruising in the Caribbean, as great as this all sounds, is your vacation is essentially. It hangs in the balance of if you choose the correct boat.
Oh, for sure. Right. So, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, the Caribbean's pretty much, I mean, people are going to come out and say, oh, no, these are my favorite islands, but you're essentially going to beach destinations, and you're not always going to get, like, immersive into little towns. You're going to be stopping off of the big ports.
Yeah.
But that brings it down to, like, the different boats are going to have different vibes and a different age group, too. They're going to cater to different things, and that's really important to know going in.
Yeah. So let's break down some of those different boats and their general vibe. So if you're looking for a Caribbean cruise, we're going to do a super quick rundown of the major companies, and there are others that exist, but these are kind of like our big players in the cruising industry. Starting off with Carnival. This is a family favorite of mine.
Yeah, we already mentioned Carnival. So their vibe is, and it's also their slogan, they're all about fun.
Yeah. So it's low price, so sometimes that fun can get a little sloppy.
Sloppy fun.
Especially with drinking. But it is a fun boat. It's got a lot of options all the time.
It's affordable.
It is very affordable. It's a great kind of it's a great way to get out and see things without paying a lot of money and when having a good time.
Yeah, and I mean, it's more of your economy choice. So your food and other amenities and things are not going to be as like high tier. This
Yeah.
is definitely more economy tier.
Absolutely. The next one is Royal Caribbean. This is the family line. It's often voted the best for families. It's a general step above Carnival in terms of price and amenities. And then Norwegian is in the very similar price category and overall kind of
The vibe and age group, family.
Exactly, and amenities. So Royal Caribbean and Norwegian, very similar. The thing you have to watch for these both is about hidden fees. So they will show you a price that looks incredible, but then when you go to check out, it's like sometimes twice or three times as much as what it said.
They're always, if you look and see these deals, $3.99 per person gets somebody free, and then you realize it's for like an inside stateroom, which if you don't know cruising, there's many different levels of rooms.
Yeah.
And if you're inside with no view, it's going to be the cheapest.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you're going to be getting, you may have to pay for drink packages or for Wi-Fi or for...
even beyond that, you'll have to pay port fees. You'll have to pay whether you want to or not. Drink package, you can decide. What you absolutely will have to pay for is port fees.
Right.
Gratuities are almost always prepaid. What else? Taxes, and you have to pay taxes on different ports, I believe.
Depending on where you go, you've got all these other kind of government surcharges and fees. So they don't necessarily include those in this wonderful sticker price.
Or even they'll say, here's a free beverage package. Oh, but you have to pay gratuities on what you would spend in the beverage package.
If people aren't sure about what that really means, instead of tipping like at a restaurant every transaction, you're essentially tipping like 20% on top of everything that you're getting.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I think usually it's, I want to say average industry right now is about $15, $16 per person per day. So it's not like 20% of your total cost.
Yeah.
But it's still, you prepay
it. Adds
it.
up.
Yeah. So watch that for Norwegian and Royal Caribbean. Okay, then we keep going up. So Disney is, it's Disney.
Mm-hmm.
So you get what you pay for. I mean, it's one of the more expensive cruises, but it is the Disney service. You get Pirate Night, fireworks, Broadway quality shows, but it's definitely going to be up a step from Norwegian and Royal in terms of pricing. Your favorite is next, I think, Bruce.
Oh, yes. This is my favorite.
Yeah.
Celebrity.
Yeah, Celebrity Cruise is a partner company of Royal Caribbean. It has like a very relaxed luxury type feel. This is actually our first cruise, and we were totally spoiled on it.
Oh, 100%.
We'll talk more about the specifics later because it was not a Caribbean cruise, so we'll talk about that later.
Despite kind of being luxury, because I feel like our Celebrity Cruise, you get treated, I don't know, like royalty.
Yeah.
It's not super expensive.
No, and it didn't feel stuffy. So I guess that's the other thing.
That's where like the exact relaxed, like new luxury kind of idea comes from, where there's some dress code, if you're going to dinner, they don't want you wearing like your bathing suit and tank tops, but other than that, it's pretty relaxed. Like you don't have to be in fancy clothes.
No, absolutely not.
Whatever.
And there are kids on this boat, but it is 100% more adult than any of the ones we've mentioned before. So great cocktail food program, beautifully appointed ships, especially the new ones. And then going up from there, Princess is an older cruise line, like an older vibe. Yeah. And it is ranked always for the Alaskan cruises. So if you're looking for like the best Alaskan cruise, Princess is often ranked the top for that. Older, more traditional kind of cruise feel. But that Alaskan itinerary they have on lock. And then finally our newcomer in the space, which is Virgin Cruises, which we did do in the Caribbean last summer. This is a wild cruise ship.
Yeah, man. I think, and I'm glad we did this because I can see where even these other ones we were talking about before we get to Virgin, they all kind of have similar aspects to them, right? Like you might have different entertainment. There's usually like house bands. There's usually like a big main stage show, and that could lean more towards acrobatics. It could lean more towards like a musical kind of thing. But they, these other boats kind of have a similar feel. But I think what Virgin does different is, one, there's no kids.
Yeah. Adults only.
Adults only. And even the way the boat is broken up, it's really catering towards people finding each other and mingling beyond just like sitting at dinner with the same 6 people like you do on a lot of other boats. I think it's just built around like it's almost like nightlife. I really think that we think it's like, if you like Miami nightlife,
Miami nightlife on a boat.
Yeah, this is the boat for you. I think it's a really interesting way to approach it. And what's included too is like they have really awesome dining options that are not necessarily the upselling ones. Right?
Yes, so they're all included. That is a thing that no other cruise line does. Usually they have like their regular dining which is like a sit-down restaurant. It's nothing, I'm not trying to hate on the other places. They're nice dinners, but Virgin has all like 15 of their restaurants open, and you can go to any of them.
Right. I think the only thing that is an upcharge is at these different restaurants. I forget what did they call it. It was like treat yourself. Treat yourself. Like a classic one is getting
like
a
lobster
seafood
tails.
tower kind of thing, which is always expensive. But you could just treat yourself, so you don't have to pay to get into that restaurant.
Right. Yeah, we had a great time on Virgin. And this is one of those things. If you got dragged to a Caribbean cruise, or you just wanted to experience a Caribbean cruise, and you are more of like an adventure traveler, there are also options. Because one of the things that we did on the Virgin cruise, which was like a birthday gift to me, was we swam with sharks.
Yeah, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was awesome, but oh my God, that's not something I ever thought I would do.
They were like, don't make fast movements, but like we had flippers on. Have you ever tried to keep your head underwater with flippers on? You are 100% going to splash the water. And they were like, don't do that.
They're like, they won't bother you unless
you do this. And then I was like,
oh, no.
There's no way. How do you keep your head underwater with flippers on? They're gonna float, and then you're trying to keep. It was actually kind of nerve-wracking.
I just love how once you get out of the water, they like feed them as like good job, like good boys stuff. Like, from biting the humans.
Except then you watch them like go after these fish, and you're like,
oh
well, I'm glad I didn't see this before I got in the water. Predators.
But anyway, no, it's really cool, and I think that was a big part of Virgin Experience is that they've got pretty affordable excursions, and some of their excursions did feel like you were getting a more authentic dip into some of the places we went. Yeah. Even though you still get off in the port and you go through like the I don't know how to describe it. It's just the manicure.
The mall?
Yeah, the mall. Like
the mall of the Dominican Republic. I mean, it like literally is like a fake Dominican Republic they put on the cruise.
It's still fun though. I mean,
totally fun. Totally worth a vacation. A great way to either just get a relaxing vacation or a multi-generational vacation. But let's move on to European style cruises, because this is where I think things start to get a little interesting.
So there are generally a couple of areas for European cruise itineraries. You've got the Mediterranean, right? So Italy, Spain, mostly, and then Greek islands, which can include Turkey and Croatia. And then there's also Northern Europe, which you're going to be stopping in Norway, Denmark,
Sweden,
places like that. And then there are cruises out of England and some transatlantic that can include Iceland, Greenland, and some other places. Yeah.
So we have the same major cruise lines that usually also have European itineraries, and those are great options. But these are going to still be a little different. So let's say you take, like we did, a celebrity cruise in the Mediterranean. A celebrity cruise in the Mediterranean is going to be much different than one in the Caribbean. And it's mostly because you're stopping in like smaller European cities. So you aren't just like put off into like what we just said, the Mall of the Dominican Republic, where it's like a little set up place. You're literally just dropped in an actual town, like that you would go to even if you were visiting from land. So it is a lot different. It's like you can get to the city center just like you would be doing any other time you travel very easily from cruise ports.
Yeah, I think, and that's a fun part about European cruises is that you get a lot of the aspects of a Caribbean. It's still the big boat. You've got all the fun amenities in the shows, but like for instance,
all-inclusive. It's easy.
Yeah, it's all-inclusive, but you can kind of see more things than you would necessarily do in Caribbean. And an example on our Greek cruise is like we went to Rhodes. Yeah. And the port is really cool.
You can walk like a really far way off the port really easily in Rhodes.
And it's always been a port. Like this has always been a seafaring area, so the boat doesn't have to tender, which means get a little boat out to the actual island.
You just go right up. Yeah.
But yeah, we once you're off the boat, we had a long time to kind of explore on our own and go see some ruins and some local areas.
We very quickly got away from the cruise boat, walked almost 2 miles, I think,
at least, if more than that,
and saw some ruins. And then we stopped in some like local gelato type places, and we went into some local shops, not in the like port area, because you do want to get out of like that immediate as soon as you walk off the boat.
Oh yeah,
because there's lots of stands and stuff. Yeah. But it's different because in the Caribbean, that's all you're really in, unless you actively make a point to take an excursion to get away from it. In Europe, you land there and then take 5 steps and then you're just in the city. So you can actually do the more exploring like you would if you were traveling in any other way. Like we, in our Greek cruise, also went to Croatia. We went to Dubrovnik, and like you could walk the walls. We ate we like stopped in a local shop and got like this local rose liqueur, and they asked them for lunch like suggestions. Yeah, and we had the most amazing lunch there at like a local place. Oh, it was great. Place.
And like, you know, we had plenty of time.
Oh, we had so much time. We did all of what I just said. Plus, we rented a kayak and kayaked out to the sea cave.
Like, it was around the city walls, out to like this and it was kind of a popular area, but it was still really nice to find.
But that wasn't an excursion. Cave. We literally just stopped and talked to this guy and rented a kayak.
That's the difference. And you know, I'm sure there are some Caribbean cruise itineraries that have options when you get there, but I feel like more often than not, you're going to be booking an excursion if you want to do something off those boats. But yeah, from my experience and from what I've seen, it's easier to go into a port day in Europe and kind of do things on your own because you're hitting these well-established cities.
Oh, absolutely.
That you don't need to buy the excursion.
Yeah, and then, you know, like we went to the Greek islands, which is, I know, a lot of people's bucket list, and it was just so easy because exploring the Greek islands, if you want to island hop, first of all, extremely expensive, like without a cruise. Mm-hmm. If you're just buying flights or you're getting ferries, it can add up very quickly. To get to the different islands. I watched somebody once compare the two, and they weren't even big cruise people, but they were like, it would save us hundreds of dollars to like go on a cruise. Definitely. Because of how much the ferries and things are in between the boats. And listen, like Santorini is Santorini. Like it is touristy, but it's going to be touristy whether you get there on a cruise boat or whether you fly in. You know, Mykonos same way. So like if you're wanting to get some of these like hot spot destinations, cruising is a really great way to see them all, but the only problem with cruising is you're gonna just get these little blips of it.
Right, and like another downfall is the boats pretty much always get there in the morning and leave by dinner, before dinner. So if you wanted to see the nightlife or stay overnight somewhere, that's like the only thing that for these big boats is not an option usually.
Although I think Virgin Voyages, we haven't done a Virgin one, but I do think that's one of their new things is that they do stay overnight in some ports.
That's right, and you know that would make sense because they're trying to combat some of the not only the nightlife, but it's also like this isn't your typical cruise.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then, so, you know, we obviously really loved our celebrity cruise. Literally could not have been better. But if you're still not totally convinced on big boat cruising in Europe, there are also tons of very small lines. So there's one that we met called Variety Cruises, and that's only 49 people. 49 people in this boat, almost like a sailboat kind of thing. And because of the small size of the boat, they're able to port in much smaller islands because they don't have to port in this big boat.
Right. They're not going to places that are tourist destinations no matter how you get there. Right. Like Dubrovnik.
Yes. Or, I mean, they don't go, I don't think, to Santorini or Mykonos, but they go to lots of lesser known, very small Greek islands. So, like, if that's more your vibe, this is also a really good way to do that. And they go all over the world, too. They don't just go to Europe.
And, you know, when I first started looking into this with Shelley, my thought was, there's no way this is affordable. Because I thought, okay, a lot of people who want to travel, this is why they don't want to do cruises, because you get a lot of these big boats and a lot of the parties on the boat. You know, you're not necessarily in the cities or in the places adventuring like you want. And you know, if you're going to take like these yachts or smaller boats, how are you possibly going to ever afford that? And the reality is they're not that different. Like there's quite a few of these smaller kind of boats and different options that I think are pretty unique ways to travel and go see places.
I 100% agree.
And one of the big things, I can't remember if it was Variety or if it was another one that it's a family-owned business for years.
That's a Variety one.
Right?
Yeah.
They do stay overnight on purpose in a lot of these Greek and Mediterranean locations because they want you to be able to experience and stay over and see these places, especially at night. Because we're talking, I mean, when does the Mediterranean party? Like
starting at 9 p.m.?
Not during the hot sun of the day. No.
So, yeah, this cruise, I mean, we looked up a couple, obviously, depending on your dates and everything. But the Variety Cruises, it looked like they ran around $1,500 per person, which honestly, that's what we paid for our celebrity cruise too. So that was big boat versus small. They may not have the Broadway shows and, you know, golf courses on their Lido deck or whatever, but it's still an awesome way to travel.
Right, and I think this is where when we say don't leave this off your bucket list. You know, cruising can be for every type of traveler. Yeah. Because it's more than just these big boats.
Yeah, and honestly, there is just something to be said for trying out kind of all the ways to get around the world, whether it's a bus, a train, a plane, or by water. I think it gives you a different perspective.
Absolutely.
So this brings us to our very third, our very third,
third.
our very last one, our third
third
segment. Yeah, I like to call these adventure cruises, but I think the actual word is expedition cruises.
Yes.
But I'll probably continue to call them adventure cruises.
Well, it's kind of like when we talk about adventure travel, which could include like trekking and stuff.
Yeah.
This is adventure travel, and they're expeditions, right?
Yes.
Because it's a boat.
I just think this is so cool. So this, I mean, it has been around, but I think this is a really kind of up and coming area for cruising. I know we're excited about it. We can't wait to like pencil one of these in just if we get, a second of downtime to do it. But adventure cruising or expedition cruising is essentially cruising that's focused specifically around exploring. So you won't necessarily find the mini golf stuff on the top deck or the buffet in the galley, but there's like naturalists on board. Sometimes there's labs on board. There was one that like you take samples and you put it through labs. I mean, just like for people who are into that, like what a cool thing. Like
sounds like we're going to work as biologists. I know, or something.
But like
not like I think it's very cool.
I do too. So Bruce and I are big like museum people. We love we just like love learning. We work in schools.
I hope you love learning.
Yeah, but I just mean we work in schools. So yeah, and I mean, for us it's like that's just the coolest thing.
Right, like when we travel, there's plenty of time for, fun, relaxation, food and whatever, especially on the cruise boats, but a lot of why we travel also is to explore and learn.
Absolutely. And so like this just seems like one of the coolest things ever. So some of my favorite companies in this space are Hurtigruten, which they literally had to like tell everyone how to pronounce. But it has a Northern Lights guarantee. So, like, if you go on one of their cruises and you're looking for the Northern Lights and you don't see it, you get a credit to go again, which I think is pretty cool. Also, the Northern Lights I just was reading an article about this. They are, like, the #1 travel regret from seniors is that they didn't get to see the Northern Lights. That is the #1 thing people wish they saw that they don't get to.
Also, if you didn't realize that Hurtigruten is a Norwegian name, I don't know if we said it's a Norwegian company, but
no, yeah. If you couldn't guess.
But Northern Lights, yeah. So like this is Norway, and it's
they do a lot of things in the north.
That's
like
true.
A lot of Arctic.
That's
stuff.
true.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say their origin story, which I think is very fun.
It is really cool.
This was started as a postal route. So to get to like different areas in, I don't know if islands as much as just the coast of Norway.
Yeah, because it's really hard to get to some of the coastlines.
Yeah, because I mean I think it could be pretty treacherous.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is like originally it was a postal route, and you can actually still take that. That's one of their itineraries. Is you kind of take the mail.
Which come on, that's like cool. Very cool. So also. Poseidon cruises, small boats, only about 100 people. So not these like 1,000, 2,000 people boats. Great for Antarctica. So a lot of people I know we're some of those people that want to see all 7 continents. And so this is a company that goes to Antarctica. And it's right around 8,000 for Antarctica. And if you're like clutching your pearls right now, that is a really great price for Antarctica. And that's for 2 people. So it's good prices. They also have a really big focus on sustainability, and I think that's really important, especially for a company that focuses in Antarctica, because I also have been reading a lot of reports in the travel world about how more and more people are going to Antarctica, and they just want to make sure that the carbon footprint stays small there, for obvious reasons. So I like their, commitment to sustainability in that area.
All right, so let's talk about one more that I think is pretty interesting. It's called Atlas Voyages. This is a new kind of company that is really, I look at it as like affordable yachting.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know much about yachting until Shelley and I started watching a show Below Deck.
/ obsessed with.
I don't know
Below
if you
Deck.
watch this show, but...
It's about yachting.
It's about yachting.
Mostly in the Caribbean. But no, I mean, like legitimately... I feel like I'm more inclined to go on this cruise because I'm just curious as to what yachting is like. But yeah, this company is, we loved them. We met them at a travel show, and they were just a really cool company.
And, when I think about yachting, especially after watching Below Deck, I'm like, man, you got to be a millionaire, right? Because like usually you're renting a boat for... I don't know, $100,000 maybe.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But I know they are kind of new and up and coming, and Atlas Voyages has... like a couple deals, like a 2-for-1 cruise deal, no single supplement.
Single supplement, by the way, is if you go by yourself, usually you have to pay extra because cruise ships are made for 2 people and they're all inclusive. So anywhere that you get an all inclusive deal, they usually consider that like double occupancy. So if you go by yourself, you got to pay a little extra, and they don't have that. And we're not affiliated with Atlas Voyages here. Like, we're not, we don't have no affiliate link or anything with them. We just thought they're really cool.
I mean, I think it is cool because like a yacht, they have open bars, 24-hour room service, really great food program. And if I remember correctly, we're talking like 10,000.
Yeah, 10,000 maybe, but then that's two people.
Two people.
So again, Antarctica, we just mentioned, it's an expensive. It's a bucket list expensive destination.
It's like an African safari, right? If you're going to Antarctica, you should save up because it can be costly. But then you think about this company that's going to go to lesser known places because it's a small boat, and you're getting this luxury for like an incredibly affordable. You're getting the luxury for what they tip the crew on below deck.
Well, a bad tip.
A bad tip.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
$10,000. So anyway, I think it's a cool one to look into.
Yeah, all these expedition cruises, like I can't wait till we can fit one into our schedule because honestly, that's where I'm excited to explore next in the cruising world. And then there's one very last thing we have to mention if we're going to mention
100%.
cruises, which is river cruises. This is kind of its own category. And again, they kind of span the globe also. Like, I mean, they're not really in the Caribbean. Well, they're not in the Caribbean really at all. But
there's no rivers in there.
But they're in North America. They're in Europe. They're in Asia. They're kind of everywhere.
Africa too. But now,
Africa, right. Yeah. But they're different. They're definitely different than either one of these things.
Yeah, I would consider the river cruise a floating accommodation that gets you to a variety of places.
Yeah, but it's absolutely not absolutely, but it's not really a place that you would hang out.
It's not a floating resort.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean you can't get a boat that's really nice with some nice amenities.
Right.
But it doesn't have a club and a full-size theater and a pool and a casino like the big boats.
Right, yeah. That's a really great way to put it. It's not a floating resort. It's just a place to stay where it's really nice because you don't have to keep moving your luggage. It's kind of an older crowd, I'd say, for the most part. Though I think that everyone could enjoy it.
Oh, I think so too. I think it might just be more popular with older generation is because like Viking is a big player out there. Yeah. And they are a little more expensive than taking a big boat. But what you're getting is a way to see a variety of towns and cities on classic routes, especially in Europe.
Well, this is, again, in that European style that you kind of get dropped off in the middle of Prague, for example.
Yep.
Like, you don't have, whether you visit Prague from an airplane or from a cruise, it doesn't matter. And I think that is kind of the pull to it, is like you're now just in the middle of a European city. You get to explore.
And it was your transportation was easy because you're sleeping and you're just cruising to the next place.
Yeah. And you're not in the open water. Some people get freaked out about open water. So.
Yeah, it's just a river.
You know what I think would be the really cool way to do a river cruise is
what would that be?
Christmas market river cruise.
Absolutely.
That you get to go to all the Christmas markets. You don't have to keep like lugging your luggage hotel to hotel. And it just seems like a really cool way to do it, So like if I were going to do that, I think that's the first one I would take.
Me too. You get
Christmas
to see
market.
A lot of really pretty cities too.
Or down the Nile. Yeah.
That would be cool.
There's a couple really cool ones. Anyways, hopefully we've convinced you to consider putting cruising on your radar. We really think it should be a part of every traveler's kind of bucket list. It gives you a different perspective traveling on water. I just think it's a cool way to experience travel.
Yeah, it's a cool way for sure. And as you can hear, there's a lot more options than just your Caribbean cruise.
Yeah, whether you're doing a week of relaxing the Caribbean or you're going on an expedition cruise where you can look at water samples in the lab like Bruce and I would do. I just think they're an amazing experience and can fit into any kind of traveler's bucket list. The one thing I wanted to mention before we go is I mentioned that there's a travel tool that I use to like make me confident enough to get on the boat, and that's the Relief Band. So this is not sponsored by Relief Band. I just really love it. So it is like a little device you put on your like wrist. If you're familiar with a TENS device, it's similar. It sends like little electrical pulses. Bruce was not a fan.
I gotta say, well, no, listen. It just, maybe I'm very sensitive, but it's like gives you a little bit of a shock.
It's like a vibration.
Shelly cranks it to like 11. I'm having like 0.5.
Yeah.
All right. So
it's a literal vibration.
But I have to say, trust me, man, it works because Shelly uses it on planes. She uses it on boats for motion sickness, for nausea. And I used it after my birthday party, which I drank too much. And man, it destroyed my hangover.
Not only that, I remember the woman on the shark expedition we were just talking about.
You saved her.
She was so sick.
Yeah,
she was like actively sick on this boat.
Yes.
And I have two of them because
she said
I'm
you
that
saved
person.
her like day.
Yeah, because I just asked her if she wanted it and she said no. And then she was so miserable. She was like, I'll just try it, I guess. And I gave it to her and she was instantly okay. Like, she wasn't like, dancing on the boat or anything, but she was fine.
Well,
she could keep it together.
Right. She could like drink something, eat something, and be totally fine.
She gave it back to me at the end, and she was like, "You saved me."
If you're going cruising, check out Relief Band, especially if you have motion sickness.
Yeah, I put a link at the bottom just to make it easier to find, but I 100% recommend.
And remember, we're doing that giveaway to celebrate our summer podcast series, which we'll announce in June, and we're so excited for this. And everybody who's on our email list will be eligible for the giveaway, so make sure you join now if you want to be entered to win. Links in the show notes.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Did you know that every time you book a Disney or Universal vacation, you're paying for a service that you may not even be using?
Really?
That's right. Travel agent costs are added to your Disney or Universal vacation, whether you use one or not.
So you're telling me that I'm paying for something even though I'm not getting the help?
You got it. So next time you want to book a theme park vacation, make your money work for you. By booking with Magic Pass Travel, you'll get our expertise and years of experience without paying any extra and while supporting a small business.
Check out our show notes to find our contact information.
Can't wait to help you plan your next adventure.